What is going on, guys? My name is Demetri, and welcome to the Rise Productive Podcast. In today's episode, we have a guest. He's a longtime YouTuber and content creator, and I really can't wait to get into this conversation with my guest, Eric Moran. That being said, let's get into episode 8 of the Rise Productive Podcast. Hey, Eric, how's it going?
I'm doing well, man. How are you?
Doing good. It's a nice Saturday in good old suburban Chicago. There's decent weather for once. I'm excited for the summer to get going, so pretty good overall.
Yep.
So Eric is, like I said, a longtime content creator. He's from Washington. And to get started, I just really want the people to hear about a little bit about your life and what you do and all of that.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Eric, for everyone who doesn't know. A little bit about my life. Let's see. I guess I currently reside in Maryland, but I say Washington, D.C. because that's a lot more fun to say. Because no one wants to say they're from Maryland. I'm currently going to school for journalism and marketing, and I am also at the same time of being in college. I also run a small YouTube channel as well. So yeah, that's me, I guess, in a nutshell.
And he's a Nationals fan. Good for him.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we big Cubs guy, as I've mentioned before, and I remember what it was like to win something when we hadn't won in a while. And for your case, I don't think you guys had won at all.
We hadn't won. Well, the Nationals I think they started in like 2005, so we hadn't won anything. And it was a pretty big deal, but it was weird because I was celebrating it in Chicago, and there was no one to celebrate with, which made it really lonely. Like, I was just in my dorm. I feel like it would have been much better if I was, with a bunch of people who also liked it. But, it was cool.
Yeah, I had the exact opposite experience.
Yeah.
I was in Chicago, and there was just an immense amount of support. I literally ran out of where I was at on campus, and there was just a crowd of people like on the quad, and it was crazy. Mm-hmm. So I don't feel you there, but I do feel you regarding when the Chiefs won this year, because I was in Chicago when the Chiefs won, and I'm a Chiefs fan. And it was hilarious because I'm just like the only person, like I'm literally crying, like I'm crying because of it. And there's a Snapchat video of me crying because the Chiefs won, but he didn't save the video, but I posted one because, someone caught me on video crying, and it was pretty funny. But regarding you and your content creation, you've been making videos for 7 years. What has that been like? You're changing your content over those 7 years. I mean, tell us a little bit about that story.
Yeah, sure. So I've actually been making videos since I was 8, but but like I think I did what every kid does, is like they start a YouTube channel, and I made several. Like I had a Club Penguin channel, mm-hmm. I had like a gaming channel, I had and I had a Lego channel, I had all that stuff. And then it wasn't until 2013 that I created like the current channel that I have now, which is like, when I was 13, I was like, you know what, I'm going to be serious about this channel, and I'm actually going to I'm going to stop changing it. I'm going to just like upload videos on here and just see what happens. Yeah. So when I started in 2013, I think it mainly started out as like, I think I had a few rants in there, but a lot of challenges, because that's what everyone was doing at the time. And I think 13-year-old me thought, if I want to get anywhere with this, I have to do what everyone else is doing. And also, I wasn't really that creative then either, if I'm being honest. And they're easy to make. Like, it's literally just something that you can just like film yourself like eating something, and then that's a YouTube video. It's the easiest content. And I did stuff like I ate an entire lemon, which I don't recommend, by the way. I ate an onion. I did like really stupid stuff. I ate crickets, stuff like that. And that stuff doesn't really bother me that much anyway. Like I like those weird foods. But yeah, so I did stuff like that. And then I'm like, you know what? I want to be a little like I was watching a YouTuber called Nathan Zed. And I noticed how like his stuff was, really unique and creative. And I was like, well, why don't I try to do stuff like that? So I talked about stuff that was in my life. I was doing like kind of sketches and stuff like that. That was like probably 2014, 2015. And then I kind of transitioned into commentary because the stuff I was doing wasn't getting that many views. And I saw that when you talk about things that are relevant, you get views that way. And obviously I'm still doing it because I like it, but at the same time I was still trying to look at it as like a long-term thing and be like, well, how do I grow this? Because ultimately I want to grow it. Like, you know, the more eyes you have, the better. Everyone wants that. So I did commentary stuff for a while, and then I don't know, like it got to the point where I was talking about things that I didn't care about. Like I was talking about like the latest Jake Paul drama or whatever. And it's like, I don't care about that. Like, why am I talking about this? So now I do like a lot of college stuff. I still occasionally do like commentary. Honestly, I've never had like a particular niche. It's always just been wherever, like whatever I find interesting at the time. Which probably isn't the greatest thing, if I'm being honest, because everyone always tells you, oh, find a niche. You got to find a niche. And I've never really done that. And I like to think people subscribe to me because of my personality rather than the things that I'm talking about. So that's kind of what I always go off of. And I mean, it's worked for the most part, but it probably would have helped if I have like if I stuck with something.
I've always heard that, well, actually in more recent years about the niche thing, because I feel like niche is a buzzword that just got thrown at us like 5 years ago. I don't know if you noticed that, because probably when you made videos before, that wasn't really a word.
No.
But the niche thing, from what I've heard, is like you go niche and then you become a personality, because originally they don't care about you. They care about what you're saying, which is interesting. But I feel like when you're trying to find yourself, and for you, like, yeah, he has over 4,000 subscribers, by the way. Plug Eric Moran Films. Everything will be in the podcast notes and description down below. But when you go into a certain niche, sometimes you might find yourself saying, oh, well, I don't like doing this anymore. And you probably just have found yourself like multiple times, like when you said you did commentary stuff and you talked about drama, like drama is probably something you can very easily get really into or not at all. Yeah.
Well, I was at the time, and then I was just like, why am I doing this? So I don't know. I think I'm glad that I'm constantly changing though, because I couldn't imagine doing one thing. And I see it changing in a few years. Like that's how it's always been for me. Like I'm never like set on one part. Maybe I will find a thing. I mean, I'm kind of just transitioning into like just comedy. I don't know. I mean, I think that's what makes my channel unique. And I've had people who've like stayed around for like 6 years, which is the craziest thing.
Yeah.
To think that they're like, and you can see now on like, I don't know, through YouTube or whatever, I can see how long people have been subscribed. And I got like a comment from someone who's been around for like 6 years, and they're like, oh, I remember when you did this video. And I'm like, man, I didn't know, like,
you remember,
people. Yeah. I didn't know that people remember or even stayed that long. So, because you would think after I like change up my stuff, people would leave. But for the most part, like everyone's stayed. I mean, still getting 300, 400 people per video watching and caring about what I have to say. So I'm very lucky that I have like an audience that cares.
That's huge. I think a big reason I wanted to have you on was because, you have over 4,000 subs. And to a lot of people, there's a fair amount of content creators that watch my channel and listen to the podcast. And a big thing to remember is, you might not want to pigeonhole yourself too hard. I think when I made the start of this channel, I was like, yeah, I know pretty much what I'm going to do. But I left it as my name, I left it as my name because you can really always pivot in that regard. Because making a whole new channel and that hassle is not exactly the greatest thing to do. I'm sure you know that. Mm-hmm. And I've seen people on YouTube have a couple thousand subs in a certain niche, and then they get bored of it, and then they switch completely, and they pivot. But they switch channels and they got like 100 subscribers after they had 5,000. I'm just like, I can't wholeheartedly believe that audience doesn't care about them that much at that point. So I guess a big thing to touch on would be like, you've just been consistent since you've started. You've been consistent for however long. And then at this point, doing YouTube has become a part of your life, and it's not that hard anymore. And I just want maybe you to touch a little bit on like the consistency and how you've managed to like embed it in your life just over the years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, consistency is huge for anyone who actually wants to like take this like somewhat seriously. I think ever since I started, it just honestly became a part of it was just something that became a part of my life, which is weird because like literally right when I started in 2013, it was just a part of like my routine. Like I would always be thinking about videos. And at a certain point, you just get used to it. And like, you don't even think about it. Like, you're like, oh, I'm going to go film a video now. I have some downtime. I think the reason what keeps me going is because I couldn't imagine myself without it. Like sometimes I'll be like, well, what if I'm not doing this? And I just can't even like picture that. So I just always keep doing it. And I think it's also consistency's been relatively, hard, and like it was hard in high school and college, but I just had to make time. Honestly, I think that's what it comes down to, because if you really like doing it, you have to find ways. And there have been times where I've stayed up way too late working on a video. But you also get used to things too. Like, for example, in college, I started to make like my videos. I'd be like, okay, well, here's a week of college, and all I had to do was just, occasionally film while I was in college. And like you make it a part of your routine, you make it a part of your day. So just finding ways to like fit in videos and do stuff like that is so important, because the moment you lose that consistency, not saying I'm the best example of consistency, because I've certainly, like I haven't made a video in like 3 weeks, but the moment you get out of that loop, it's sometimes hard to get back in there. And also the way YouTube works is that your audience might leave if you're not, dude, that's something that always keeps me back, is worrying like, oh, are they going to like forget about me? So yeah, that's kind of what's keeping me going, and why I've been relatively consistent over the last 7 or however many years at this point.
Yeah, and it's an interesting story regarding like not only that consistency, but you actually got a really large amount of subscribers all at once through a viral hit that you had. Speaking of Jake Paul drama, but Logan Paul, his brother, when the Suicide Forest video came out, tell us a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, sure. So I uploaded a video about the whole Logan Paul Suicide Forest thing. I uploaded it towards like right when the stuff was like starting to come out about it, which I think is why the video did relatively well, is because I was one of the first people to like actually make a full video on it. And when they looked up the thing, my stupid video would pop up. So yeah, when I saw Logan Paul's video, I was outraged like everyone else. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to make a video about this. Obviously I knew it was going to get views, but it's not like I was doing it for the whole purpose. Like, it was one of those things I was like, well, I cover this stuff. Why I have to talk about this. Like, if I'm covering this other pointless drama, why would I not talk about this very serious thing? Like, this guy literally filmed a dead body. So I covered it thinking that it would get like 1,000, maybe at most 2,000 views. Well, instantly it was getting a ton of views, and the dislikes were coming in, which was weird, by the way, because I was saying something that wasn't very controversial.
That is weird.
It's weird. Yeah, no, that video has like 1,300 dislikes, something like that. Something stupid. Yeah. Now, it wasn't my best video, if I'm being honest. Looking back on it, I definitely could have improved. But yeah, so I uploaded that, and it had 300,000 views in like 2 days, which is something I was not used to. I'm always under the thing where I respond to all the comments. It got to the point where I couldn't do that. I was trying, but there were like 1,000 comments, and I would constantly refresh my phone, and then I'd have to take a break from it because it was really overwhelming, if I'm being honest, because you're not used to that. You're used to getting, like, I'm used to getting like, at that point it was like 20 comments a video, and I could just respond to all of them. And I was getting so many comments and a ton of new subscribers. And it was like the coolest thing ever, though, because then I was getting like DMs from people saying, oh, your video was, really helped me or whatever. Because I talked about like suicide awareness and stuff like that, because I tried to use that as an opportunity. So yeah, just like the positivity was overwhelming. Sure, there was some hate on it, but it was just so much positivity. But then with that came a lot of pressure, because I got like 800 new subscribers.
Yeah.
And then I was thinking, oh, these people just want to see that kind of content. And then you kind of, then you get into the point where you're kind of pigeonholing yourself, which, kind of sucked.
That's really scary, I feel like, because sure, everyone wants to have that viral hit, I think for me personally, it's like, if I had something in my niche that went viral, that'd be awesome. But for you, I mean, yes, sure, you might have had to pigeonhole yourself in the drama section, which is, in my opinion, not exactly the greatest spot to be in on YouTube.
Nope.
But like when you have 300,000 people just see your face all of a sudden, that's got to be, I mean, I'm not saying you have hit celebrity status or anything, but like you got to the point where 300,000 people that had never seen your face before and like conceptually thinking about that probably freaked you out a little bit.
Oh, of course. It was, I mean, obviously I was happy, but at the same time, it was just like overwhelming because you're not used to it. Like, I always expected like a slow build up to when how my channel would grow. And I wasn't expecting something like that to happen. And it was interesting because when I was I think it really hit me like maybe 6 months afterwards when I was at VidCon and I was at like one of these networking things and someone said, I know who you are. You're the Logan Paul guy. And I was like, what? And that was weird. And that's what like my title became, which is awesome, by the way. I love that nickname. Yeah. Yeah, if you ever see me, please don't call me that. But that's what I got. Like that's what happened. And then I'm like, wow, this is like an actual thing that people are aware of. And then obviously people from my school like picked up on it. Like the day after, everyone was like congratulating me, and I was like, okay, cool. But yeah, it's definitely like an interesting thing that you can't really be prepared for. Like nothing could have prepared me for that amount of attention in such a short amount of time.
And you were in high school when that happened then?
Yeah, I was a senior in high school. It was over break, but like I came back the week later, and it was
winter
just
or spring. Sorry, I don't remember when you did it.
I did it in early January.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's
so. Yeah, I mean it's. I'm glad it happened, but also it's like, I don't know. Either way, I'm satisfied with it because it's not like it's getting views anymore. It's like it hasn't gotten views in years. But yeah, I'm glad it happened. It's a cool part of my channel's history. Whenever people look up my channel, they'll always be like, "Oh, you had a video that hit 300,000 views," and I'll be like, "Yeah." And I have to like explain the story behind that, which I don't mind talking about it because it's a part of my channel history, and I kind of have to live with that. I've contemplated like privating it, but I'm like, nah, I'm gonna just leave it up.
That'd be
so.
Why would you think about privating it?
I don't know. Just because I'm not like, it's not something I think about now, but at one point I was like, well, I don't really want this to like define me. But then at the same time, like it's still 300,000 views on the channel, so I might as well leave it up.
Yeah.
So
I think that puts you in a weird spot. But when you take a stance on something like that, I don't know 100% whether that defines your whole channel. If you have people that are like consistently watching you, they're not going to define you as the Logan Paul guy, at least. So hopefully, when people go viral and stuff, they know that like if they have consistent work after that, they're not going to think of them only as that if they're the right kind of person who's following you and the kind of people you want following you. Like if you have people there that are just, oh, this is the Logan Paul guy, like I'm not saying you don't want them to follow you, but they're not exactly your they're not subscribers of yours in your sort of eyes, I guess.
Yeah, no one knows me as that anymore. Like no one calls me that anymore. At the time they did, but then as you were saying, like I was putting out consistent content, so then people started to know me for me, which was awesome. So I think I definitely capitalized on that situation the best I possibly could have. Like being like, look, this video happened, but I'm going to make these videos. And if you like them, you like them. And if you don't, you don't. Kind of
fair.
Stuff like that.
Very fair. So the next thing I do want to talk about, which you mentioned a little bit, you talked about school and being a YouTuber at school and, vlogging your daily life when you're in college. I want to hear a little bit about, what it's like to be recognized in college and that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's very interesting. When I was a freshman in college, I made the decision that I would just start vlogging my life because I thought it would be an easy way to make videos, and also thought it'd be fun. I didn't really do it with the idea of that it would help me meet new people, but it very much did. So I would put the school Loyola Chicago in the title, and that like those videos got a lot of views from what I assume are incoming freshmen and even students at Loyola. So like my freshman year was actually relatively tame. Maybe only like 2 or 3 people came up to me or whatever and said, hey, I've seen your videos, which is still really cool. Sophomore year, it was just nuts. Like I think the first couple weeks of school, 10 to 15 people were like, hey, I saw your YouTube videos or stuff. It would either be, I would be the YouTube guy. Sometimes they would know my name. Sometimes they would be like, I've seen you before, stuff like that. But it's very humbling and it's very cool. Cause obviously I'm just a student, and I sometimes people think of like this whole like YouTube thing and they automatically want to like label you as like a internet celebrity or whatever, but I'm very much not. And I'm trying to be like, look, I'm just a student. Like, let's have a chat. Let's be friends. You know, stuff like that. Like sometimes people come up to me and then they'll say something and then I'll never see them again. And I'm like, no, like I want to like, you know, it's not like you're not worthy of my time. Like you most definitely are. So that's kind of one of the weird things that comes with it is like people thinking that, you know, that, he doesn't want to like associate with me or whatever. Cause that's happened before. But then also like there's people who are trying to reach out and, you know, I've had dinner with a group of freshmen because they invited me and I was like, yeah, of course I'll go. You know, I got invited to Taco Bell. I've got some girls recognized me at a Dunkin' Donuts and we had coffee for like an hour. Like it's like stuff like this. And that's like the coolest part. And then I've also gotten friends out of it too. Like in my anthropology class, this girl just came up to me and she's like, I know you. And then we just became friends. So, you know, it's really cool. Like I couldn't imagine like being in college without it because it's definitely been a way to meet a lot of people, which I'm very grateful for.
Yeah, that's got to be really cool. I think the fact that, you know, you're not necessarily a celebrity, but on campus, you know, I'm not saying you are, but on campus, there is a different sort of atmosphere than you when you're anywhere else, you know, like you'll leave that campus and you'll be like, okay, I'm just like, nobody knows me. And that's fine. And you're fine with that. But it's got to be weird that like when you're specifically there is when people know you.
It's odd. And then sometimes I don't know if they're like staring at me because they, you know, like that's weird. And I try not to pay too much attention to it because I'm like, oh, do they know me? Are they judging me? Like, what are they thinking? And then I've just, you know, because I've kind of just, you know, I kind of just ignore it at this point because it's not like I'm relatively popular on campus. Like, seriously, I'm really not. Like, I have like a small group of friends and, you know, so I don't know. Like, it's a very interesting experience. And like when I'm on that campus, I'm aware that, you know, I don't know, like people might be like watching me because I've had people DM me saying, I saw you, but didn't say anything. I'm like, well, why?
Why? Just say hi.
Why wouldn't you say anything? Yeah, exactly. It's not like and I get it, you know, maybe being scared of like, you know, the social situation. I don't know. Cause I think it's kind of weird. Sometimes people think it's weird to come up to someone, especially when they're as small as me. I don't know, but I'm like, yeah, just say like, what's up or something like that. But I'm very conscious of that people might be just staring at me, which is kind of weird to think about, but it is what it is. And then when I'm out in like Chicago, like in the city, I'm not worried about it because it's not like people are going to know, like, what are the chances there's someone who watches my videos? Like, slim to none. So I'm not too worried about that.
Yeah, that's definitely something that in the future, like, I feel like for anyone who watches this or will watch stuff going forward, like, I feel like it would be cool for that to happen. I totally agree with you on the whole, like, why people would be nervous about it, but like, not being afraid has got to be hard because they look at you and they see you as like this different person than you actually like. I'm not saying like you're a completely different person on camera, but they see you as like an online personality sort of thing. So they want to go up to you and be like, hi, I saw you from your video, but like, they think that initial experience is going to be hard, but the second you give context, like I feel like you're probably just going to be like, oh yeah, cool, let's have a chat, like you said with the girl that had coffee with you and stuff like that. So
I'm so used to it at this point too. It's like that's completely normal. Like it's not like sometimes I think I might think it's weird, and it's like no, like I put myself out there online. I expect people. I wasn't expecting this many people to see them, but I expect people to see them. So the whole point is for people to watch them. So if you happen to watch them, that's cool, you know? So.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think something to move forward with this point on, like giving yourself context, would be, you know, when you make videos and you made videos on drama and you made videos on commentary and stuff, and everything you do in this sort of mini spotlight that you have, there's got to be like this sense of always having to worry about what you say because you're never able to give context fully to people because you're just saying it on the internet and then, you know, people kind of run away with the topic.
Mm-hmm. You have to be really careful with the things that you say, especially when I was talking about like like drama and stuff too, I was trying to be like well aware is like someone can just take this out of context and run with it. So especially when I was talking about like current events and stuff like that, I would always have the stuff, like I would have a script. I wouldn't read off the script verbatim, but I would have it for reference to be like, I need to touch on these things, because if I don't, someone can just run away with this, and they'll still take me out of context regardless. Like, it's not really something you can ever win with that. And especially when you're making like drama related videos, people are looking for things to call you out on, because that's just kind of that community, is they like to hold each other accountable or whatever, and they like starting stuff. So yeah, you have to be very aware of what you're saying. And even now I still have to be aware of what I'm saying. It's not like that changes the moment I switch content, because I'm aware now, like I don't really have a big platform, but you know, I have you know, like I have the ability to possibly impact people. So I want to be like, you know, self-conscious and know what I'm saying, because who knows who's going to see it. So that stuff is so important. And I think people don't understand that when they put stuff online. Like they don't really think it's going to like reach, but like it has the way the internet works is like it has the ability to affect, you know, reach so many people just in a matter of like days. So yeah, being very aware of what you're saying is very important.
I feel like from going forward from that like Logan Paul video you had, you probably realized that that is even more true because you had extreme unexpected virality, right? So you're probably thinking like, oh dang, anything I say going forward can go viral, so I can't mess up.
Yeah, and that's not something I thought about with the Logan Paul thing. It's not like I was thinking my words, because I was having people quoting specific things I was saying in the Logan Paul video, which I wasn't expecting. And I was like, oh yeah, I did say that. Should I have said that? Probably not. Should I have made that reference? Yeah, probably not. It probably, you know, and that's not something I would have thought about if I didn't have 300,000 people watch it. So that definitely helps. So yeah.
It's a weird spot to be in for sure. I think something to touch on with like not being able to give yourself context and stuff is like, I'm sure Eric knows this too, but like we only show a small portion of like who we are, you know, when we're making videos. Obviously, like we try to be as transparent as possible, as honest as possible, but like you're not getting the full picture of like my life ever when I'm talking about stuff. You're not getting the full picture of what Eric's life is like, because there is a sense of like, you got to be a little personal. Obviously some people aren't on the internet, but this is sort of like, this is an energy that you have to put up, you know, like when I'm making this podcast, if I'm just like, yeah, this is me talking, sometimes I'm in that mood, but I can't do that. And you're never getting to see the full picture. So I just want to say, like, never assume that what somebody says immediately is what they like, their thoughts are fully, and that if they're not able to give you context, don't jump on that wagon of like hate immediately, because somebody might have just like worded something wrong, I feel like nowadays. And then because it's on the internet, it's like, well, that's what they meant. They know it's permanent. That's what they meant to say. It's like, well, it's kind of desensitized at this point. I don't know if you've noticed that, but people have desensitized the internet to the point of, I feel like early 2010s and stuff, people probably knew more that like it was permanent, because like that was a narrative that was being like shoved down everyone's throat when we were younger and we were kids, and social media started to come out. But since social media is so normalized, like, I'm not saying people don't know it's permanent, but it's more normalized that it's permanent, so people don't care as much, if that makes sense.
No, it definitely does. And you see like people getting canceled left and right every day now for things that they say online. So I'm very cautious of these things, and it's things that I think about a lot, because the last thing I want to do is say something and then someone just runs with it, and then my career or whatever, you know, is over, because things can just happen like that. So very aware.
Being aware is good, but I think another thing to say with that is like, on top of not wanting the career to be over, I think genuinely most creators, they don't want to offend anybody. Like they're not trying to hurt anyone's feelings out there. Like that's a big thing. I know there's been like drama recently in the YouTube community with between a couple people. Like I think Keemstar and H3 had a big beef. So like, you know, you see that kind of stuff come out, and then people say stuff to each other in the comment section. And sometimes I feel like the comment section can be a little more like, I don't want to say violent, but like they're trying to hurt people's feelings more than maybe sometimes what people are saying in the videos. I don't know if you've noticed that.
Yeah, well, they're able. Some of them are able to hide behind like a picture. Like sometimes they don't actually like the most vile stuff I've ever seen is people who don't have like a face on their profile or something that isn't, stuff like that. And you see stuff like that, and that's why I'm like, well, your opinion doesn't mean anything to me because you're literally saying like the most vile thing you can think of, knowing that you have this protection behind you. So yeah, you get that stuff, and you kind of. I try not to pay attention to it when it's directed at me or when I see it in the comments in general. So
yeah, it's hard to deal with that because I feel like when you're in this spot, it's a little whatever you say means more, and people think your opinions and think what you're saying means more than like the person in the comment section, which is really not true. Like we're just people talking in front of a camera, and the other person's choosing not to.
Yeah, what's stopping them from doing it? Like they can do it too. Like just because someone has like a certain platform doesn't mean their opinion carries any more weight than the next guy, because literally anyone can do this. Literally anyone can set up a camera and just voice their opinions and upload it online. So, and sometimes people don't understand that, which sucks because I wish they would know that their opinion means just as much as mine or yours or anyone's. So,
yeah, and there's like a sense of I feel like there are people with credentials in the world, there's a fair amount of people who've written books on things and that kind of stuff that end up becoming content creators. Like there's that Navy SEAL Jocko Willink I've talked about before. I don't know if you've seen him, but like his opinion might matter a little more on like work ethic and that kind of stuff. But like the person talking about it that doesn't have any sort of credentials, just because they say something and then you get like mad at it, it's like, well, they have the same opinion level or like they have the same credibility as you. So don't like take it so personally. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I think moving forward with like subscribers and the comment section and all that kind of stuff, I do want to talk about how it seems from what I've noticed, subscribers are the hardest thing to get on social media. I feel like you can get a pretty big following in a lot of areas, but like you can get a person that knows people, right, will get a couple thousand, followers on Instagram if they just know a lot of people. But on YouTube, getting 1,000 subscribers is, that's like impossible for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. I think it's because mainly it's like when you're subscribing to someone, you're committing to watch their stuff. And that's different than following someone on Instagram. Because if you're following someone on Instagram, you're just committing to see their posts occasionally. Yeah, and you don't even always like them. Like there's so many people I follow that I don't even interact with their posts because I don't even know them. Yeah. But I just follow them anyway. So that's not really much of a commitment, or even just tapping through their stories or whatever. But when you're like I take YouTube seriously and I watch a lot of YouTube. So when I'm subscribing to someone, I'm saying, okay, I'm going to watch this person's stuff. Not always everything, but I'm still, they're going to pop up in my feed and I'm going to watch them. So, and it's hard to like convince people to subscribe because they understand that subscribing is usually a commitment. So yeah, it's definitely hard. Like any other social media platform, it's much easier to grow. Like TikTok is so easy to grow on. But like with YouTube, it's like, you have to like work to get those subscribers. You have to put in a lot of work, which people don't understand. And they think like, oh, starting a YouTube channel is going to be so easy. But like getting subscribers is like the hardest part of it. Because I had a video with 300,000 views, which we've already referenced way too much than I would have liked. But I had a video with 300,000 views and I only got like 700, 800 subscribers from it, which I'm still grateful for. But when you think about it, 300,000 people saw it and only 700 to 800 people subscribed. So that just puts it into context how hard it is to get people to hit a button, because when they're hitting that button, they're saying, I'm looking forward to seeing your other stuff. So yeah, that's very difficult.
Yeah, that's like a really low percentage when you think about it. It's incredibly low. I guess another really low percentage too is like when you're trying to get people from your Instagram following or your Twitter following or your LinkedIn following, for me, I guess, there is an insane low amount of traction that you can actually pull from those other platforms, which, I'm sure you post like when a new video comes up or whatever, but like, I think I get something like 3 to 4% of my views from, being from the other platforms. Like they go from that link, and that's hard. I feel like sometimes because you're putting work into making a social media post for it, and you're putting work into trying to get people onto YouTube who haven't seen it before. And it's like YouTube's got an extra layer of grind to it where, you can quickly link somebody an Instagram post and they'll go check it out. because it's a picture. But if you link someone a YouTube video and it's taken away from them scrolling in the feed, it's really hard to pull them off that platform onto YouTube too.
Yeah, it's hard to get people off of the apps, whether it be TikTok, Twitter, Instagram. For whatever reason, it's much more challenging. Now, I still post stuff when I make a video because there is a chance that someone new might see it, or maybe they didn't get a notification from YouTube because that's not always reliable.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I still do that stuff. Like, I still post it on my story and Twitter. And I have had occasions where posting something on Twitter actually helped my video get more views. Like, I think I did a polar vortex video in 2019. That's when Chicago had, like, I'm sure you remember, incredibly just cold. Like, it was miserable. And it was the 1 year anniversary. So I tweeted out a video, not thinking anything of it. And I used like the hashtag or whatever. And that video got like 1,000 views that day.
Wow.
So and you could see it, like, and a lot of people were retweeting it and liking it and, stuff like that. So, I try to use social media to my advantage, but it's still relatively hard to convince people to check you out because they're just so invested in what they're doing right now. If they want to be on YouTube, they'll be on YouTube. It's hard to pull them away from a mindless thing like going on Instagram or reading Twitter. Like, YouTube at least takes a little bit of effort to at least like watch. So that's something that I kind of deal with. Like, I just post them just in case.
Yeah, that's something that I wanted to get across to the people who are watching the content, that are content creators, and people who are even just like fans of the content. We know that maybe you're not going to go and check out the video, but there is this off chance that you like it, somebody else likes it, and then one of the other social media platforms picks it up and it goes semi-viral, whatever. And like Eric said, like, you got 1,000 views just by virtue of one tweet. So we know we're spamming you, but we're trying to do it to hit at least some more people, because in YouTube, like, every little thing you do can really add up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For sure.
So true. Another thing about little things adding up is something that's pretty cool. I've never been to VidCon, never even thought about going to VidCon, but you've went to VidCon multiple times, and you're from the East Coast. So, and for those of you that don't know, VidCon's in like what, San Francisco? Or is it?
Anaheim.
Anaheim. Oh, it's like kind of by LA, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So how was that experience? And how many times have you gone?
So I've gone 2 times. I would have gone this year, but obviously that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's probably one of like the coolest experiences ever. I had been to YouTube events before, but they were much smaller. The one in like VidCon is like, that is the YouTube event of all YouTube events. Like, that's the one that everyone knows. Like, even people who aren't even that familiar with YouTube know about VidCon.
Yeah.
It's just like this giant event. And so I went in 2018 for the first time, not knowing a lot of people. But I went because, I had always wanted to go as a kid, because VidCon's been a thing since like 2010 or something, 2009, something ridiculous like that. And I've always wanted to go. So it's like, I'm going to just go. So I go and I meet a ton of people there, mainly, content creators and, people my size, because it's so easy to talk to people there because everyone has the same experiences. And like, for some reason, like, I'm just different when I'm there than in like a regular social situation, because I know we have this common interest. So I can just go up to it. Like, there would be nights where like I would just be at the fountain and I wasn't there with my friends, and I was like, well, I want to talk to someone. So I just go up to someone and I'd be like, what are you filming? What are you doing? Yeah. And meet people that way. It's so easy to talk to people there. And also it's a lot of fun. Like, it's a giant event. You have this giant expo hall, so much stuff to do. There's like concerts, there's live music. It's like, they have a dance party one night. Like, there was like we went to a water park. Like, there's always stuff going on. And in 2019, I was even more like outgoing and, out of my shell, because I'm a relatively introverted person. I mean, I don't mind talking to people, but like, I was just like a completely different person when I'm there. And so, yeah, like, everyone has a similar interests. There's also a lot of panels, which were really helpful. Probably the most helpful thing was the networking sessions, where the whole purpose was for you to go there and meet people and network. And the current podcast I do now, it's with someone I met through that networking thing. And if it hadn't been for that networking thing, I wouldn't have met him. So it's like stuff like that. Just networking with people, having business cards. It's like kind of like this professional thing, but it's also so fun. Like there's never a dull moment when you're there. So to anyone who can, I recommend that they go. But when you do go, actually make the most of it. Like if you're going to just go there and sit and like be sheltered, like it's uncomfortable. I get it, but it's like, it's not worth going out because I'm coming from the East Coast. So I have to make that experience worth it. So that's why when I'm there, I'm just like a different person. I'm making videos there. Like my vlogs at VidCon are probably the most fun stuff I've ever made, if I'm being honest. So yeah, definitely making the most of it. And obviously I hope to go next year. Who knows at this point? But I recommend it to anyone, even if you're just like a fan. Like they have fan stuff too. But it's cool for like people like me, smaller creators.
That's really cool. I definitely think it's something I could possibly check out moving forward. I've heard about VidCon before, but actually never firsthand from anybody. So that's pretty cool to hear. I want to ask you, did you get kicked out from VidCon?
I did, and I didn't. I mean, I did. Yeah, it's a weird story. So like, I think it was the first night of 2019 VidCon. I was at it was like do you know who Poppy is?
No.
She's like this weird like artist. I don't know. Like her whole thing is like it's just odd. Like it's weird. I don't know how to explain it. Her music's very weird. She has this like persona of like this robot character. I don't know. It's hard to explain. But I saw that she was like the last act for that night, and I was like, oh, I'll just, hang out here. And I was with a friend and we were watching it. And then they just were like, all right, everyone leave. And it was weird because she was there for 20 minutes just on stage, like DJing or whatever, playing this random nonsense. And I was waiting for her to play one of her songs, which typically, like, she had a few good songs. And I was like, oh, I just want to hear her perform. Never performed them. And they kicked us all out while she was still on stage, like DJing. And it was the weirdest thing ever. And I was trying to tell the guy, I'm like, dude, she's still performing. He's like, you gotta leave. So obviously I recorded the whole thing. And then I also got kicked out of, in 2018 VidCon, I got kicked out of a party that I wasn't supposed to be in. Which, probably wasn't the best thing in the world. But like, I saw a wristband on the floor, so I picked it up and wrapped it around my arm or whatever. And so I walked in and I sang karaoke. It was a super lame party, so I left. And as I was leaving, the security guard saw that I didn't have the band on, and he like grabbed me and pushed me out because my band had fallen off. Which I didn't like. I was like, come on, dude. Like, I'm leaving. And he like grabbed me and, pushed you. Like he literally did the thing they would do in the movies, take you and like throw you out. It's a cool experience. It's a fun story. But yeah, never had anything too serious with like security. But I have been kicked out per se multiple times from various events.
Well, I guess I know that I'm not supposed to go anywhere that I don't have a wristband for when I go. So that's good to know.
Yeah, exactly.
Regarding your experience as well, tell us a little bit about meeting big YouTubers there.
Oh, that's like the coolest part is going up to them and being like, look, your content has, affected me in this way. I really like what you're doing. And then sometimes I'll even bring up my channel as well. Obviously, I'm not trying to like be there and pitch my channel to them. But, sometimes they're interested and sometimes they're like, oh, that's cool. And then I just don't really continue with it. But sometimes because I understand they're busy or whatever. And I'm not trying to like sell myself. I'm literally just trying to tell them that I enjoy their work and then it inspires me. And I've met like some big YouTubers through that who like I still stay in contact. I guess a good example is someone who goes by the name of Arcade Matt. He has like 1 million subscribers on YouTube. He does arcade videos. In 2016, I went to a YouTube event and came up to him as a fan. And I was like, dude, like I grew up with your stuff. I love your stuff. I handed him a card because I talked to the dude for like 30 minutes and follows me on Twitter. And now at every YouTube event, we always meet up and we've, cool. Stuff like that. And then, so that's like the coolest part is when like you have, and I have a few other friends who I met through YouTube who have like a considerable amount of subscribers who I met at these events. And if I hadn't gone up to them, I wouldn't have been friends with them. But it's still cool going up to big YouTubers who even afterwards you never see them again. I did a creator chat with Boogie2988 or God, I always get the numbers messed up, but I think that's it. So I did a creator chat with him. He talked about creation for like an hour. I asked him a question. That stuff was really cool because you're able to get like that first on, advice from like someone who does it for a living. And I think what a lot of people don't realize is these people are just normal people. They're just like regular people. Almost all the interactions I've ever had with a big YouTuber have been friendly. Like I've met like FouseyTube
Oh,
when
really?
he
You
was
met
a
Fousey?
thing. Yeah, in like 2015. He was actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
But pretty much every YouTuber I've ever met has always been pretty cool for the most part. Some not as nice as I haven't had any negative experiences, but there's definitely some that are more friendlier than others. But at the end of the day, they're all just people. And I think that's what sometimes people don't understand when they see their favorite creator and they just start screaming. It's like they're just like a regular person.
Yeah, they're just a dude or a woman that's just making videos in front of a camera that it worked out for. Maybe for people at VidCon, it makes it's like a little more understandable, and you're probably a little more calm than the average fan because you're making videos and you probably realize like Boogie could be, for example, just you if you made it, you know? So it's like, it's not like that much different than who you are.
He's just a regular dude. Like he's, you know, and he's a great guy, by the way, if anyone ever meets him, he's a cool dude. But yeah, I mean, now some of them kind of have like an ego and stuff, but the ones that I'm personally fans of, they're, you know, they just give off this like regular person kind of vibe. So yeah.
Yeah. Going along with that, I do want to talk a little bit about what I always do in this podcast about the good old beer thing. The word I can't use because YouTube doesn't like it. So I'm curious how this whole crazy situation has affected your life, the negatives and positives of it.
Sure. It sucks, but it's manageable. Because if anything, it's given me more time to like work on stuff like this. I definitely haven't taken advantage of as much of it as I would have liked to, because like, I don't know, like I feel like I should be much more consistent with what I'm doing, because right now I don't have a job. I should have one by July, because I'm a summer camp counselor, and right now we don't have summer camp.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I think if anything, it's given me an opportunity to just be with my family and spend a lot of time with them, but also work on other things. Like, I mean, if it hadn't been for this current situation that we're in, I would not have started my own podcast. I'm making videos with another friend where we like film every couple weeks or so. I would never be in a position to do that. I wouldn't be, you know, I'm trying to be more consistent with the channel. So yeah, I mean, I think if anything, it's given me time to like focus on things that I want to do. Obviously, it can be really crappy sometimes when you're just stuck in a room and you can't really do anything. And that can be really demotivating. I know I've had days where I'm just like completely out of it and I just can't do anything because I'm just so just sad. And I'm like, man, I wish I could be doing stuff right now. But it's good. I'm not that affected by it because my content doesn't really it never has really involved me going out and about that much. I mean, sure, when I'm in college it does, but when I'm here, there's so much stuff I can just film in my room. So I would like to say I mean, obviously the whole situation sucks in general, and luckily I'm not really that affected by it. Like, there's definitely people who have it way worse than me. But it can be kind of crappy sometimes, but I'm trying to like see the positives out of it and be like, oh, I can, you know, why don't I use this to make stuff? Because I'm never going to have like free time like this again. Never. So I'm just trying to, you know, take advantage of that.
I think it also gives some perspective because, I mean, we both experienced going home from the college situation we were in and like appreciating what we had, you know, like the day-to-day grind is not exactly something that's appreciated in any sort of sense of the word, but that like normalcy, I do appreciate it. And I think when I go back to it, I'm going to fully appreciate, you know, having like things being normal.
Yeah. And you're also able to like do things, and it's like going to class is like one of the things that like motivates me to just go on with my day because I have to be there because it's school and whatever. But like when I'm here, I don't have any like responsibilities, and it's so easy for me to just slack off and do nothing. And I'm definitely more appreciative of that whole day-to-day situation process. And I definitely miss it, and hopefully we'll go back. Who knows at this point, but I can't believe I'm saying it, but I actually miss school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Game changer.
Yeah, for real.
The situation's changed opinions of a lot of people on that, I'm sure. The last thing I do want to actually talk about is, what is your opinion on Bryce Harper?
I like that question. I have 3 of his shirts actually in my closet over here.
Yeah.
Because as a fan, like, I mean, he came in what, like 2012 or whatever. I kind of grew up with the dude, and he was a great player. Obviously, he had some off years, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, he did.
But yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed him as a player in DC. And then when I knew he would be leaving, obviously that sucked. But it was also, I was like, honestly, he's probably not worth the money. I think what sucked was him going to Philadelphia, of all teams. It's like, really? Like, that's like our enemy. Obviously, he can do whatever he wants, but it was something like that. That kind of rubbed me the wrong way, just because I think the Nationals offered him about the same money. The contract
really?
was structured differently, but about the same. And that's what bothered me. I'm like, look, we want you to stay here. Obviously, I thought we were probably going to give him too much, if I'm being honest, but the Nats clearly wanted him to stay in DC. And then he goes to Philadelphia, and you kind of feel betrayed because you go from loving this guy one year, and then to the next year you hate him, and he's like an enemy. We like Jason Worth here, and he went from Philadelphia to Washington, so I get it. I understand it. But yeah, it was definitely nice to win literally the year after he left. Like, there was something like that was just awesome, especially being able to. I think the Nats beat the Phillies. And like them beating them on that day, like, made the Phillies out of playoff contention, which was like the coolest thing ever, that they actually affected that. And then, going on to just win the World Series without Bryce Harper, when he had been like the key piece to that team for so long, was just awesome.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, he hasn't been great in Philadelphia, and the fans in Philadelphia aren't that forgiving.
No.
So yeah, so it's definitely been nice. Obviously, honestly, I wish the best for the dude. Like, sports are, silly. It's like, I hope he, has a great career or whatever. But it definitely sucks when he leaves. Like, and then I have the shirts, and I won't wear them in public, but I'll wear them like around the house, because I literally had 3 of his shirts, all of which I got as gifts. Because at the time, that's what you would do. You would buy someone a Bryce Harper shirt if they were a Nats fan.
Yeah.
Because that was like it's like if you're a Bears fan, like at a time, like you would buy someone a Brian Urlacher jersey or a Devin Hester jersey. That's just
exactly.
the thing that you would give them. And now now we have so many superstars like that you could do it with anyone.
Rendon.
So, well, not anymore. But at the time, yeah, Rendon.
Wait, did he sign with someone else again?
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, he's with the Angels now.
Oh, my God,
Angels, yeah. Yeah, but now we have like Soto, Scherzer, Strasburg. Like, you can do so many different people. But the time, Harper was like the guy. So that's what sucked about it, especially growing up with him. But, it is what it is. And, hopefully he has a good life or whatever.
Yeah, we almost signed him on the Cubs.
I was following it, and then I was like, wait, I don't care where he goes. And then he went to Philadelphia, and I was like, oh.
Well, now I kind of care.
Yeah, I do care a little bit. Because it directly affects us, because we play him, which I also think is a bold move, going to the enemy that you play a lot.
Oh, extremely bold.
Yeah, and it didn't work out. I mean, he's still there for like 12 more years or whatever, so we'll see how that works out.
Yeah, I remember I guess the only example I could think for us as Cubs fans would be recently Dexter Fowler going to the Cardinals. Mm-hmm. But, like, he's not superstar. Now, if Chris Bryant does that, I'm going to be livid. I'm going to be livid for at least 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Like, they're basically the same person, Chris Bryant and Bryce Harper. Pretty boys, very early hot start to their careers. Chris Bryant has had a bit of a tail off recently. I mean, granted, he did get kind of hurt and stuff, but I fully agree with you about the whole, like, you probably would have paid him too much on the Nats. Like, I was happy when you guys got rid of him. And I actually made the joke. I was like, wouldn't it be funny if they won a World Series now that he's gone? And then that happens.
Yeah. I made the joke not actually thinking they would.
Oh, of course
they would make it. And then when I made like a playoff bracket or whatever, and I had the Nats beating the Astros as like a joke. And my playoff bracket was almost perfect. I got one series wrong. If I hadn't got that series wrong, I would have had a chance to win $200,000. But I try not to think about that.
I would.
But yeah. I mean, I don't think it would have happened. Like, I think you have to predict certain scores or whatever.
Got it.
And my scores probably weren't right. But still, I almost had a perfect bracket because I was like, wouldn't it be funny if the Nats, a wild card team, beat literally the best team in the American League? Keep in mind, they would have to go through the Dodgers to do that.
Yeah.
Which they somehow did. So it's crazy.
Before the playoffs started, I was like, it's a lock. Houston won the second they traded for Greinke, right? And along with the Dodgers, I'm like, it's Dodgers, Astros, not even a question.
I thought the same thing. Yeah.
And then that happens, and the crazy part of that World Series was you guys won every road game, didn't you? You guys didn't win a home game?
Every road game, and it was crazy because I actually flew back to DC for our home game. We got destroyed. Obviously, I was still grateful to be there. Like, that's the coolest thing. I went because I never knew when something like that would happen again. Because who knows if the Nats will ever do that again? Because like that year was like something special about that year. Like the World Series, like it was surprising that they won, but it also wasn't at the same time because I was watching that team the entire season, and like you could see when it switched. Like they were 19-31 at one point.
Oh yeah,
and then but it's weird because after that point they had the same record as the Dodgers did from that period of time. So they like had the same amount of like momentum and you know stuff like that, and they were hot, but people saw them as a wild card team, and they're like, no, this won't really work out. So yeah, it was surprising, but it also wasn't because crazy stuff had been happening the entire season. I remember one point they were getting destroyed by the Mets and had like a 7-run comeback in the ninth, and when you see stuff like that, you're like, wait, something is actually special about this team for whatever reason. And now they lost a few pieces, and I don't see them, doing that kind of stuff again. I don't even know if they'll make the playoffs if there is a season. But I'm cool with it. Like I can live the next 10 years without seeing a World Series, and I don't care. Like that's why I'm like, when I see Cubs fans, no offense, but when I see them complaining about like not like doing well, I'm like, come on, you won a World Series in 2016. Like give them a
break.
Years.
Yeah.
Like,
I remember when Joe Madden was let go. Like a year and a half before that, people were calling for his head, and I was like, we didn't win for 108 years.
And he won you this. I mean, he helped win you this. And it's like, what do you do? Because I hope Nats fans aren't going to do that for Davey Martinez. You would think after he does that, we don't get like I would hope he leaves on his own terms.
Yeah, I feel like I heard some people though from Chicago, because isn't that the old bench coach from Chicago?
Yeah.
People are like,
Davey Martinez.
He might have been the one that really helped the Cubs. Like, all right, just
he's not like it's weird because he's not like the best manager in the world, but also it's like because he had done questionable things all year, but for some reason in the playoffs he was insane because the Nationals, for those of you who don't know, don't have a bullpen. Their bullpen is atrocious. Yeah, it was like record level, like bad. Like it was up there like for the second or third worst ERA since like the 30s at one point. They were that bad. So in the and even when they made it to the playoffs, they didn't have a great bullpen either. So he would like have starters do relief. He would do all this crazy stuff, and he managed it really well. So I mean, if it wouldn't have been for him, probably wouldn't have won the World Series the way he managed it. So I don't know.
I think it's always interesting with baseball. Just one or two last things would be like regarding who wins the World Series. If you watch baseball as a real super fan, the best gauge for me that I've noticed for who's going to win the World Series is actually not who wins the most amount of games. It's who wins the most amount of games they shouldn't win. Like what you're saying, like with that 8-run comeback. Like when I saw the Cubs win a World Series, I knew that year was going to happen. Like something within me knew every single time something wasn't going the right way. And same thing back when the Sox won in 05. I remember hearing Sox fans talking about how they knew it was going to happen. And I think baseball is an interesting sport in that perspective because like basketball, one of the top 3 seeds is going to win. Hockey, you don't know. But in baseball, it takes those real passionate fans to kind of have a relative gauge as to who's going to win a World Series.
Yeah, which is crazy to think about because for some reason I was like, you know what, this is a possibility, and like it happened in the playoffs so many times when they were down or it looked like, something bad is going to happen. For some reason, they always came out on top. Which people sometimes forget, like they almost didn't even win the wild card game. Like it was Juan Soto had this crazy hit that, sent them to beat the Brewers. And it's like they had been doing that all season. So like I was really nervous watching it, but then part of me is like, something has to happen. And I was watching it, I think in the student center on my laptop, and I was going nuts, and I was the only one in there, and people were looking at me like, what the heck is this kid freaking out about? And I was like, yeah, And so, yeah, stuff like that's cool. And I'll never forget like that whole season. And, hopefully I see it again. But now my next thing is waiting for the Bears to win a Super Bowl.
That's not happening,
which
buddy.
Yeah, I know.
That's not happening.
It won't
ever.
happen. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Did you grow up? You grew up a Bears fan somehow?
Yeah, it's weird how that works out. But yeah, I had family in the Chicago area, and then so I became a Bears fan. And then the Nats were on TV every day, so I just became a Nats fan.
Huh.
So yeah, it's unfortunate that I'm a Bears fan. It's not great, but being in Chicago is cool because you're surrounded by other Bears fans who can also, share in your sympathy. Because when I was back home here being a Bears fan, everyone would make fun of me for it. And I'm like, why are you making fun of me for it? You're Redskins fans. Like, that's just as bad, It's like, I couldn't imagine what's worse. Both of them aren't the greatest thing in the world. But people would give me so much crap for it, which was ridiculous. But yeah, here or in Chicago, everyone's just like, yeah, we suck. That's cool. We have a defense, but we don't have an offense. And you kind of get used to that.
That's the story.
Yeah,
that's going to be the story for the rest of history. And me growing up in Chicago and then, being a Chiefs fan and then the Patrick Mahomes versus Mitch Trubisky where they were drafted. Oh, when the Trubisky Mahomes Bowl happened this past year, I could not stop laughing the whole time. It was just like, you messed up.
It was pretty comical. Honestly. Yeah. Like I don't even. I'm a big Trubisky guy, but he sucks. So, I mean,
you're gonna have Nick Foles, so it'll be fun.
Yeah, he's definitely winning that competition. I see no other thing happening. Could be wrong, but
I think you're right. He's
yeah.
He's got a good nickname back in Philly, so that's all I'll say about that one. Sure. So, with that being said, thank you so much, Eric, for being on the show. If you have anything else you'd like to touch on, I give you the floor.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me. I guess for the people who are still watching for this long and listening, thank you. I guess a special message is to anyone who's considering content creation, just do it. Just go for it. I think that's, consistency is key. Keep it up. And see what happens. Like, don't just start it and then stop it. Like, if you want to do this, do it. And hopefully listening to me talk about it and see with somewhat of the luck that I've had, that maybe you'll consider doing it too. But just know that it's a grind. So, and also if you just watch my stuff and you're just here to support me, that's cool too. So thank you.
All right. Well, I'm so happy we had this conversation. And with that being said, I will see you guys in the next one.